What's going on, my fellow troops? My name is Xavvo and welcome back to a brand new video. So today I wanted to do a little ramble just to kind of talk about Call of Duty and my current opinions on Modern Warfare 2 and just really the stuff that I'm starting to think are the real issues at stake with Call of Duty right now, as a lot of people are starting to feel that there's something off already with Modern Warfare 2 and it's not as anticipated as everyone thought it was going to be and just all of that stuff. But I really quickly just want to clear up, guys. Yes, I'm here. I'm not dead. As you can see, I'm looking at you right now. I'm not a phantom. I'm not some sort of a delusion of your brain. I'm not a hallucination. I'm actually here. Sorry, I was gone probably about 7 days, I want to say. I mean, honestly, you guys, if you hadn't seen my community post, you probably wouldn't have noticed anyway. I'm pretty bad at uploading in general, just because of how long it takes for me to actually think of a video idea and then put it to action and edit it and get it out, because of how long these videos take to edit now. But of course, if you've read my community post, you'll know that I was gone for a bit because just to put it short, some buffoon, some absolute old fart was, he's trying to plant in some fucking water pipes for a field, and he dug through my Wi-Fi cable, so we had no Wi-Fi. It's all fixed, though, now, thankfully, so I'm back, and, yeah, next time that bastard does it, I'm coming at him, Anyway, let's not go there. Let's now talk about what I was actually gonna make this video about, because I've really started to notice just how much this is starting to affect people, the state of Call of Duty right now. There's a lot of people like myself who just aren't even playing Call of Duty as frequently anymore, and we're seeing the same things being literally regurgitated that we heard last year before that. And of course, people at this point are going to kind of, get it quite adjusted to this and say, oh, well, it's just Call of Duty, leave it be, this is how people are every year. But I do think there is some credibility to the arguments people are making, and it's very much starting to show itself in the light compared to newer competitors like XDefiant. If you have not heard of XDefiant, basically there was this new game. It was mainly on PC, I think, for anyone who could get access to it. But there was a new game called XDefiant. It's a first-person shooter developed by a bunch of old developers from Call of Duty. So ex-developers of Call of Duty from probably many years ago, back in the golden era, as people like to call that time of Call of Duty, before like 2017, I want to say. That was the golden era of Call of Duty. Some people would argue before 2015 at this point, I don't know. But Call of Duty was in a time once where it was very highly praised. People loved the games every year. There was hardly any complaint. Of course, there was graphical complaints and there was complaints about whether some of the games looked similar to one another, but most people just put their head down and enjoyed it, and they could just enjoy the game for what it was, and they didn't find too much to quarrel over. But now, obviously, in the new landscape of Call of Duty, we see there's constantly bickering on Twitter, on YouTube, on pretty much any platform about Call of Duty. You see the comment sections are flooded with trolls under Instagram posts, and pretty much no one's satisfied with the games. There's a lot of people, obviously, who just play the games. They don't complain about it. They're not on the internet saying all this stuff. They're just enjoying the content. These people do get a lot of abuse. A lot of these people get called, lapdogs and shills for Activision. They get called all sorts just for enjoying the games, and I do feel bad for those people. Maybe it's their first card. Maybe they've been playing for a while now. Maybe they just like it, and they don't really see the problems that other people are pointing out. But when you actually take a look at the way the developers made the older Call of Duties and the way it corresponded with the audience who purchased it, like the customers were satisfied, you can see how it's now becoming a problem that XDefiant comes out, right? It's only in beta mode. It already has a ranked mode. It already has loads of content off launch. Off launch, it has plenty of content. It has a camo grind already, and everything's pretty much already getting fixed immediately. Every problem that comes to arise in the game, they're immediately fixing it and, working on it. And this is a game that's only been in beta for probably a few months now or less, and it's on PC, and it's not even made it to a console, and people are already pleased with it. It has pretty much everything that Call of Duty needs right now, but will only get at the end of its life cycle. That is just how baffling it actually is. People are starting to say that XDefiant is the Call of Duty killer, and I do actually see why. I do see that generally there is some things they have just done much better in XDefiant off the bat compared to Call of Duty by the end of its game cycle. It's despicable just how much Call of Duty takes its time to kind of understand what its game needs to flourish. Instead, they just drag it out and spoon feed us content over months or years until we get a full-rounded game, by which point they've already thrown it to the trash because they have the next game coming out. It's definitely an issue, 100%, and I think in the light that we've seen with these newer competitors coming out, you know, like XDefiant, it's starting to really make me question, is Call of Duty actually doing something wrong, and have I just been, you know, turning a blind eye to a lot of it, or not complaining enough because I'm just basically taking the spoon to my mouth and I'm just shutting up? Like, it does seem like I've been doing that for quite some time. I will say, though, part of the reason I've been doing that is because I do not enjoy ranting about games all day. I'm not blame truth. I don't like sitting here and crying about every goddamn update that comes to Call of Duty and calling it weak or calling it terrible and the worst thing in the world and just shitting on the game 24/7 and, you know, attacking the devs. Because ultimately, it is not the devs' fault. The devs love the game. They want to put all their heart and their sweat, blood, and tears into these games. They really do. These devs, they've been working on Call of Duty games for a long time. They're very passionate about it. It's what they do. So I think it's very scummy to go all ham on the game or the content and just make fun of it and, you know, insult the devs, because it's not the devs' fault. I think people need to understand that, and I do seriously find it really fucking annoying when I see these debates online about the problems with Call of Duty, and there's so many people who just have sheep-like mindsets, right? They jump onto the argument and they will just go, SPMM, sweaty, game's bad, very buggy, and they don't actually know what they're on about. They're literally just following the crowd, pointing out problems that, yes, may actually be an issue, but they have no idea what they're talking about. And I've had comments myself from people under these kind of videos trying to point out that it's the developer's fault. Fucking Infinity Ward, it's their fault. Treyarch, it's their fault. Like, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. If you actually look at most of these games that come out in pretty shit quality, or they come out rushed, like Vanguard or Cold War when they were rushed, that wasn't the developer's fault. That was Activision's fault. That's the publishers. They were rushing them to get the content out, and they didn't actually give them the reasonable amount of time to put out a full developed game ready for launch. That was Activision's fault. So a lot of the time, I do find it very annoying when people just don't seem to understand the way things work, and they won't even be prepared to give the compliments to the good stuff about the systems, but will only give the bad things when they haven't actually clearly got any idea what the thing is they're talking about, and they're not really equipped to argue about it because they don't know how to weigh out the pros and cons. There is a lot of pros about Call of Duty. I do think there's understandable reasons to why Call of Duty now has problems, like skill-based matchmaking. The major thing that I think makes sense for why they have it is to protect the lower bracket players, like maybe people who are disabled, who can't really play Call of Duty on a normal controller or mouse or whatever, and they have one of those like fancy ones. Those people are not going to be able to come up against CDL sweats because they have no chance. Let's be honest, they're going to get absolutely thrashed. And then there's the new players who've never played Call of Duty before, some people who've probably never held a fucking controller in their life who've just bought it, and they're like, they have no idea how to play the game, and they're going to get absolutely pub stomped. I understand why they have skill-based matchmaking in hand for those kind of reasons, but if you are to look at like the previous Call of Duty titles, it's ridiculous. We don't need it. It's been proven to work before. Even in Black Ops 4, there wasn't skill-based matchmaking, at least not to my acknowledgement. It didn't have all the disbanding lobbies going on, where as soon as you played very well, you got kicked out of your current lobby, and you got a bunch of sweats thrown in with you because you did well over the past 3 or 4 matches or something. You didn't have that. Like, it was just a constant swap of just the same players until people backed out. Anyone who backed out, anyone who joined in would be the only times that players would change. But other than that, it was just swapping teams pretty much all the time, and you never got sweats coming in or noobs coming in because you played well or played bad. It wasn't this dumb system that we have now. So I will say that is the majorly flawed part of skill-based matchmaking. It's the disbanding lobbies. I don't think, though, the whole thing is bad. I think it's functionable, and I do think we can work with it. Skill-based matchmaking, as I say, they say it's been in the game for a long time. If you've watched my other videos, I've explained this before, that the devs have tried to say this has been in since like Black Ops 2 or some early time like that, but it's been very, very slight, right? And it's only gotten worse because of the players trying so hard. So ultimately, that's another thing. People ranting at the devs about skill-based matchmaking being here. It wouldn't have to be here if every one of you weren't trying so hard. Let's be honest. We all want to try hard. hard now because that's the current landscape of gaming. It's very competitive. So many people are trying to become content creators. So many people are trying to become streamers. The list goes on. Everyone is trying harder now. Everyone's grinding camos. People aren't just playing for fun after work. People aren't just coming home from school and having a laugh. It's now all about trying to be very good at the game. So a lot of you who are watching this video, you might not be any better than the people you're actually pointing fingers at and accusing of being sweats. You might not be any better yourself. I know myself, I'm not very good for that because I do try pretty hard to play in Call of Duty, but that could always be, at the end of the day, that I'm trying because everyone else is trying. But it's a vicious cycle. And at the end of the day, I think skill-based matchmaking can work. It has worked for many years. The major problem for me, I think, is the whole disbanding lobbies and the way they calculate whether players should be put against higher players or lower players just because they performed well. That is not the way to, you know, reward people. It's just punishment and it's not fun, and that is definitely understandable. And I think that's one of the major problems that Call of Duty does genuinely have. But like I say, skill-based matchmaking has been here for a long time, and that's never really stopped me from enjoying the previous Call of Duties before Modern Warfare 2019 that I did play, which was like 2 of them, but you know, that's besides the point. The fact is, XDefiant has one crucial piece that I think Call of Duty doesn't have right now, and that major thing that I'm noticing that seems to make XDefiant more enjoyable to the players than Call of Duty, and it's going to sound wild, right? But I think the major problem that Call of Duty has right now is movement. That is it, movement. Notice how a lot of people have not really complained about that many things in Modern Warfare 2 other than the movement. There will be, of course, the generic people complaining about skill-based matchmaking, as I say, and there will be people complaining about bugs, but bugs always happen in Call of Duty. They happen in every game known to man. Every game has bugs. When they have bugs that arise, they get fixed. That's normal. That's all part of a game. Of course, in an ideal world, we wouldn't want any bugs to happen in a game at all, but it happens, and a lot of the time, bugs can be fun. They can be exploited. You know, you can have broken guns. They're classified as bugs. So, hey, we can't really argue that bugs are a massive problem. A lot of time, they can be fun. So, I don't think bugs have ever been the major issue for the game. You know, glitches and errors and all that sort of stuff, and balancing. That stuff is all kind of part of the deal, and I do think the genuine major problem between the newer CODs like Modern Warfare 2 and the older ones is the movement. You would be surprised at just how much movement is crucial to making a game enjoyable. If you take a game like Apex Legends was so fun because people loved the fact you could throw around all these teleporters, you know, these little portals and shit to get about, and you can use zip wires and you can slide constantly, and it's just very action-packed and it's fun. Same thing goes with Fortnite. One of the major things that was so fun in that game was instead of just walking around the whole time really slowly, you could build and ramp and do all sorts of stuff to kind of keep your mind active. It does sound dumb, I know, because it sounds like the mindset of an ADHD freak of TikTok complaining that they haven't got enough stimuli when watching an informative video, that they need some Subway Surfer gameplay on the side. But look, it's genuinely the case. You do need stimulation while playing a game. A video game is stimulation as it is, but don't expect people to be satisfied because they're having to slide really slowly or very awkwardly. The ADS time is too slow because of the actual animation speed. It's not the weapon, it's the actual animation speed. And just everything feels slow and clunky, and just like, this is what the problem is. I genuinely believe the movement is the major thing ruining Call of Duty right now. We can always argue the other little things on the side. Maybe we need to add a bit more content in. Maybe we need more stuff off the bat, I should say, rather than just waiting until like 4 or 5 seasons later until we actually get those things. That's definitely very understandable things to complain about, but I do think if the game was just more fun to move around, if movement felt free, loose, and just felt like really enjoyable, that is crucial to making gameplay more enjoyable. That kind of makes people want to come back for more. And I was not really too aware of how much it actually meant to move about in a game until I went back to prior Call of Duties and I thought, God, there's something so good about this game. I don't know if it's the kills that are satisfying. And then I was like, hang on, it's the movement, isn't it? Because it was quicker, or it was more, it wasn't like delayed, there wasn't as much animation, it was just very smooth, and it just kind of made you want to move around. Because when you want to move around because of how fun it is, bam, it's a win-win. You don't have as many campers, and it just keeps people happy playing the game in general, because who doesn't want to play a game when moving around is fun, never mind actually getting the kills or doing the other stuff. It's really important that movement gets fixed. I genuinely believe if they fix Modern Warfare 2's movement, I don't really know whether I would say they should bring back slide cancelling, because that is, let's just say, it's very debatable. That was a little fun for some time, but eventually it became this thing where you kind of had to do it, like a compulsion, I guess. Like, it was, you just kind of had to slide cancel because everyone else was doing it, and it was awful because it would just absolutely ache the shit out of my thumbs, and it didn't actually do anything. You just looked like an idiot, but at the same time, everyone else was doing it, and it was the only way to make the gameplay feel more fun. So I do think slide canceling doesn't have a place, at least it shouldn't have the ridiculous amount to it that it had in 2019. At least tone it down if they do bring it back, but movement needs improvement, and I think they need to get rid of that disgusting ADS speed on the guns. Like, the animation, like when you're jumping and you're pulling the gun in, it's way too slow, and it just doesn't feel fun. It feels constantly like you're being punished for playing the game. It just doesn't even feel like they want you to enjoy the multiplayer experience. And when you've got people diving around everywhere with the light classes on, like the bullfrog and all this sort of shit, or we should say the bison, you know, people running these really light weapons, and they're just sweating on everyone whilst everyone else is trying to use other weapons because they either want to extend their palette for guns, or they just want to, you know, grind the other guns. It's not fair on them that they're having to be punished for the ADS and all this animation speed and shit because of some guy who's sweating using the lightest guns in the game, because they know the meta. They know these guns are lighter than the other ones, and they're just going to stick to those, and they're just going to sweat on everyone. It's not fun. It just isn't fun. We need to have universally across the whole game, every gun should feel fun. Just animation speed, all this stuff needs to be taken into account of the speed of the movement, everything. I think it needs to be fixed in some way, as much as they can anyway. I do understand a lot of this is just kind of how the game's engineered from the very beginning. You can't change too much of it, but if they can speed things up a bit and make things feel a bit more looser and more enjoyable, I do think that is the major thing that will improve Modern Warfare 2, and I truly believe that is one of the major things that XDefiant has over Call of Duty. You guys let me know in the comments, what do you think the major problem is? If you agree with me that movement is indeed the actual problem here at stake, but I think it is. I think it's generally that's punishing and making things feel much more boring and less satisfying, and in turn, it doesn't make you want to come back and play the game as much. So yeah, anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and yeah, again, let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys.